Anyway, we went through this question during boot camp. During the PSLE intensive. No reason to get the question wrong. 360, 468. Okay. Now, let's look at question 13 very quickly. What do we know? You can draw model. If not, you can do branching. Either way, I think works. Or you can do neither of those. Up to you. We know that he sold 270 blue pens and 25% of the pens sold were red. Of the pens sold, this is important. That means of your total pens that were sold, 75% were blue, right? So we know that 100 minus 25, so 75% of pens sold are blue. Agree? That's what the first statement tells us. Okay? So 75% of sold gives me 270 pens, and therefore I will go ahead and find what is 25% of sold. 270 divided by 3 to give me 90. Bear in mind that this is your rate sold. And therefore, 100% of the pens that were sold, 90 times 4 to give me 360. Your 1 mark for part B. Why did I write part B? Your 1 mark for part A should not be a problem. There's a reason why I went to find the 25%, so you will see why later. But it doesn't matter if you didn't find it, you just find it in part B. What does part B say? He sold 40% of his pens. This means what? 40% of all pens is 360. Make sense? So from here, what can you find? We know that. So this is part 1 of the information. Part 2 of the information say that 30% of the pens left. And this is where, again, you all need to pay attention. This is not 30% of the pens in total. This is 30% of the pens left. Technically, this is a remainder concept. That's why I say some of you will go and branch it, or some of you will go and draw a model for it, but I don't think it's necessary. But up to you. So what do we want to find? We want to find what is of the pens left, right? So this is 60% of total. Agree? Because if he sold 40% of all his pens, that means the pens that were unsold is 60% of the total. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and find what is 20% of all pens. Technically, it's a calculator question, so you don't have to do it this way, but we could imagine what if this were not a calculator question. So 60% of all pens, therefore, would be 180 times 3 to give me 540. Right? And these are the pens that are left unsold. Now, we are told that 30% of the pens left unsold were blue. That means 70% of pens unsold or left are red or were red. Right? Make sense? If 30% of the pens left unsold were blue, that means 70% of the pens left unsold were red, right? So I can now find my red pens that were unsold. It is just 70% of the number of pens that were left unsold, which will give me 378. And therefore, your total red is your 378. And then you add back the 90 pens that were sold, 90 red pens that were sold at first to give you 468. And that is where finding this part here is useful. If you didn't find that part, then you still have to go and calculate how many red pens were sold at first. there's an extra step there.